My wife cheated with her boss on our honeymoon, then stole $300, $0 from our joint account to fund her new life with him. Now she's claiming the house and everything we built together was a gift from her parents. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife cheated on me during our honeymoon. Honestly, it sounds like the kind of nightmare you read about in some trashy novel. But here I am, living it. The worst part. The whole thing was so much more twisted and brutal than I could have imagined. It started with little signs I brushed off, her being distant, secretive texts, late nights with work, and her suddenly changing her phone passcode. I mean, I knew women could be sneaky, but I never thought I'd catch her cheating on me, especially not during what was supposed to be the happiest week of our lives. We got married in June after dating for 3 years. I thought everything was perfect, her smile, her laugh, the way she looked at me like I was her world. We planned this fancy honeymoon in the Caribbean and I was over the moon, literally. We had it all mapped out, beaches, sunsets, champagne, the works. But about 3 days in, I started noticing little things that didn't add up. Her phone buzzed constantly, she'd slip away to the bathroom for long periods, and she was strangely defensive whenever I asked about her whereabouts or who she was texting. It was subtle at first, but I could feel the tension growing. One night, I decided to check her phone. I wasn't snooping out of boredom. I had a gut feeling that something was wrong. I mean, I'd seen enough movies and I knew the signs. So I snuck into the room when she was asleep and unlocked her phone. That's when I saw the messages. They weren't just friendly chats, they were heated, explicit, and downright disgusting. She was sexting her boss, Mark, from her hotel room. The way she described him, how big he was, how good the sex must be, made my stomach turn. I saw the pictures, the flirtatious emojis, the whole 9 yards. My wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with her boss. During our honeymoon, I couldn't believe it. My mind was racing. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I stared at the screen, replaying what I'd just seen, trying to process the betrayal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and completely numb all at once. How could she do this? How could she cheat on me, especially now, during what was supposed to be our perfect start? I spent the next hour just sitting there, holding her phone, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. When she finally woke up and saw me with her phone in hand, her face instantly went pale. She tried to grab it, but I held on tight. "Who is Mark?" I asked, my voice trembling with anger. Her eyes darted away and she tried to brush it off with a forced laugh. "It's nothing, just work stuff, you're overreacting." But I knew better. I saw her lie right there in her own face. I felt my blood boil. How could she lie so easily? How could she think she could get away with this? That moment was like a switch flipping inside me. I realized I'd been blind, but now I saw everything clearly. My wife was cheating on me. Not just with her boss, but also stealing from us. More on that later. The trust I had built over 3 years was shattered in an instant. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and a deep sense of betrayal that I couldn't shake off. And that's when I started planning what I was going to do next. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to be smart about it. Because this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about the money, the lies, and the life we had built together. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without a fight. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. I had spent the next day gathering every piece of evidence I could find, screenshots of the messages, bank statements, anything that could prove her betrayal beyond a doubt. I also started digging into our joint account, and that's when I saw it. A massive withdrawal of $300, $0 made just a few days before I discovered the affair. I couldn't believe it at first. I stared at the bank statement, thinking maybe it was a mistake, but no, it was real. She had stolen that money and I had no idea where it went or what she was planning to do with it. That night, I sat her down in the living room, my heart pounding. I knew I had to confront her face to face, get some answers, no more hiding. She was sitting there, acting like she hadn't a care in the world, her smug attitude making me even angrier. I laid out everything I had found, the messages, the bank withdrawal, her lies. Her eyes widened, but instead of showing remorse, she just shrugged and smirked. "Oh, come on, Jay," she said, flipping her hair. "It's not a big deal, you're overreacting. Mark and I were just having some fun. You're so paranoid. Honestly, I don't even know what you're so upset about." Her words were cold, dismissive, like I was just some inconvenienced boyfriend she was humoring. I could see the lie in her eyes, though. She knew damn well what she was doing, and she was trying to gaslight me into believing I was crazy. I lost it. I yelled at her, told her I knew about the affair, the money, everything. Her reaction was infuriating. She threw her head back and laughed, a harsh, bitter laugh. "You think I care about your precious money, that house, everything we built? It was a gift from my parents anyway. You don't own anything. You're just lucky I even stayed with you after I met Mark." That's when I felt like I'd been punched again. Her words, her attitude, she didn't even try to deny it anymore. She was proud of what she'd done. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and make her see how deeply she'd hurt me. But instead, I just sat there, watching her smug face, feeling my fists clench. I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I had to do something, and I had to do it fast. The betrayal was too raw, too real. The money she stole, the lies she told, all of it was a slap in the face. I realized I was living with someone who didn't care about me, only about her new life with Mark. I felt like I'd been living in a nightmare, and I didn't know how I was going to wake up from it. I told her I was done, that I was filing for divorce and taking everything that was mine. She just looked at me with that bitchy smirk, insisting she deserved everything because she was the victim here. She kept claiming that the house, the money, everything we had was a gift from her parents, like I had no right to anything. It was like she was trying to rewrite history, erase everything we built together and make herself the innocent party. But I saw through her lies. I saw the truth in her eyes, and I knew this was only the beginning of what was going to be a long, ugly fight. That night, as I sat alone in the dim light of the living room, I felt a mix of exhaustion and clarity. My wife was a liar, a cheat, and a thief. She thought she could have her cake and eat it too, cheat, steal, lie, and then turn around and claim she was the victim. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had to plan my next move carefully. The money she took wasn't just about the cash. It was about the betrayal, the lies, and the fact that she'd thrown away everything we had for some cheap affair with her boss. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. I knew I had to protect what was left of my life. And I knew I'd have to fight to get back what she stole, not just the money but my dignity too. That's what this was really about now, reclaiming myself from the wreckage she left behind. I didn't sleep that night, but I made a decision. I was going to take everything from her, her lies, her money, her false sense of control, and I was going to make her regret ever crossing me. The next few days were a blur of planning and shock. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone. She stole $300, $0 from our joint account, and she had the nerve to act like she was the victim. She kept insisting that the house, everything we built, was just a gift from her parents, like I had no claim to it. Honestly, I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. It was as if the woman I married, the woman I loved, had been playing me from the start. Every moment I thought I knew her, I was just fooling myself. I started digging deeper into the bank statements, pulling up every transaction I could find. I wanted to understand where the money went, who she was funneling it to, if it was just her or if Mark was involved somehow. It didn't take long. I found multiple transfers to offshore accounts, some in names I didn't recognize. She'd set up a whole web of accounts, probably with her parents' help, to hide the cash. She thought she was so clever, hiding her tracks, but I was no fool. I knew her game. Meanwhile, she kept up the act, acting all innocent and bitchy whenever I confronted her. She'd roll her eyes, call me paranoid, or accuse me of not trusting her. "You're just jealous," she'd say. "Mark's the only one who truly cares about me." That made me angrier. How could she be so delusional? She was lying to my face, trying to gaslight me into thinking I was losing my mind. But I'd seen enough to know the truth. Her lies, her manipulations, they weren't going to work anymore. I also started talking to a lawyer. I knew I needed to protect what was legally mine. The house, the money, everything we had. She was trying to claim it was a gift from her parents, but that wasn't going to hold up in court. I had proof that most of the money was from our joint account, earned through my work. I was furious at how she was trying to rewrite history, making herself out to be some innocent victim, when she was the one who betrayed me first. I was determined to get my share back, and I wasn't going to let her spin her lies any longer. The more I uncovered, the more I realized just how deep this betrayal went. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The affair, the theft, the lies, it was all part of a bigger plan to leave me with nothing. I caught her lying about her whereabouts, sneaking out late at night, meeting Mark in secret. I even found hotel receipts in her email. She'd been staying overnight with him, pretending to be at work or some business trip. I felt sick every time I thought about how she'd been living a double life, right under my nose. One of the most shocking moments came when I confronted her about the money. She just sneered and said, "It's none of your business where my parents' money is. I don't owe you anything." That's when I realized her entire attitude was about control. She'd been planning her escape, and she was trying to make me feel insignificant, like I had no rights, no say. But I wasn't going to let her do that. I had legal rights and I had evidence. I was prepared to fight her for everything. That's when I started putting together a timeline of everything she'd done. Her affair, the theft, her lies. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. I also started thinking about how I was going to protect myself emotionally. I'd been so naive. But now I was waking up. I saw her for who she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd rather lie and cheat than face the reality of her actions. The pain was still there, but I was starting to feel a sense of clarity. I had to get out of this for my own sanity. In the meantime, I also found out she was claiming the house, saying it was a gift from her parents. That was the last straw. I had proof that we paid for it together, that I contributed just as much, if not more. I was furious that she thought she could just rewrite our history and take everything I had helped build. I knew I'd have to fight hard in court, but I was ready. I was done being a victim. From now on, I was taking back control. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about dignity, respect, and proving that she couldn't just walk away with everything. I have to admit, it's terrifying to realize how much a person can betray you, how they can lie and steal and still look you in the eye like they're innocent. But I also learned something valuable. Trust is earned, not given. And sometimes you have to fight for what's yours, especially when someone you love turns out to be someone you don't recognize at all. I'm not sure how this story will end, but I know one thing. I won't let her take everything without a fight. Not anymore. Over the next couple of weeks, I threw myself into legal action. I met with my lawyer multiple times, showing him every piece of evidence I'd collected, bank statements, emails, text messages, even hotel receipts. I all started compiling a detailed timeline of her actions, from the affair to the theft, to the lies she'd spun about the house and the money. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deeply she'd betrayed me, and how much she'd been planning her escape for months. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, acting like everything was fine, like she hadn't done anything wrong. She'd throw tantrums, call me paranoid, accuse me of being controlling, and insist she was the victim. Her bitchy attitude only fueled my anger. I couldn't believe how she was spinning her lies, trying to make me look like the bad guy when all I wanted was the truth and my fair share. The house, the money, everything we built. She was claiming it was a gift from her parents, that I had no right to it. That lie made me furious. One day, I caught her in a blatant lie about where she was. She had told me she was at her parents' house, but I found out she was with Mark, staying overnight in some hotel. The receipts I found online confirmed it. That was the moment I knew she'd been lying to me all along. She thought she could fool me forever, but I had proof and I was ready to fight her in court. I wanted everything back, the money, the house, my dignity. I also learned that she was trying to claim the house as her own, saying it was a gift from her parents. That was a lie, too. I had paid for most of it, and I had the receipts to prove it. I felt a surge of rage every time I thought about her trying to rewrite our history. How dare she pretend she was innocent? How dare she try to steal what I helped build? I knew I had to stand my ground, no matter how much she tried to manipulate the situation. Her attitude only got worse as she realized I was serious. She started threatening me, claiming I couldn't take her to court, that she'd leave with everything if I tried. That's when I started documenting everything, her threats, her lies, her attempts to manipulate the situation. I knew I had to protect myself legally, and I was prepared to fight her for every dollar and every inch of That house? I wasn't going to let her walk away with my life, my money, or my future. One night I sat alone in the dark, thinking about everything. I felt like I was trapped in some twisted nightmare. The woman I loved had turned into someone I barely recognized, someone capable of cheating, stealing, and lying to my face. The betrayal cut deep. But at the same time, I realized I was stronger than I thought. I was done being a victim. I was going to fight for what was mine. I knew I couldn't fix what she'd broken, but I could take back control. That's when I made a decision. I was going to push forward no matter what. I'd fight for the house, the money, the truth. I'd make her face the consequences of her actions. Because at the end of the day, I knew this wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about standing up for myself after being humiliated and betrayed. I didn't know how it would all turn out, but I was determined to see it through. I owed it to myself to try, even if it meant facing more chaos, more lies, and more heartbreak. I also started thinking about how I'd rebuild from this. The trust was gone, but I could still salvage my life. I had to let go of the anger, the pain, and focus on moving forward. But first, I had to win this fight. I had to reclaim what was rightfully mine, and I was ready to do whatever it took. The court date was set, and I knew this was the moment that would determine everything. I had all my evidence organized: bank statements, text messages, hotel receipts, proof of payments for the house, and a detailed timeline. I also hired a private investigator to dig into her offshore accounts, just to be sure I had everything covered. Honestly, I felt like I was preparing for a battle I couldn't lose. She had been so confident, so dismissive, acting like she'd already won. But I knew better now. I wasn't going down without a fight. When I sat across from her in the courtroom, I could see the smug look on her face. She still thought she was clever, that she could lie her way out of this. Her lawyer tried to challenge my evidence, but I had everything backed up. The bank statements clearly showed the stolen $300, $0, and the emails with her boss confirmed the affair. The receipts for the hotel stays and her secret meetings sealed her fate. Her entire story was crumbling piece by piece. She tried to spin her lies, claiming she was just trying to start a new life, that the money was a gift from her parents, and that she had every right to do what she wanted with it. But I wasn't buying it. I stood up and presented my case, explaining how the money was ours, earned through our joint efforts, and how she had lied and manipulated her way into taking it. I also pointed out the proof that she was living with Mark, staying overnight in hotels, and lying to me every step of the way. Her face started to turn red and her bitchy attitude faded for a moment. But then she snapped back, trying to intimidate me with her glare. "You're just jealous," she spat. "Mark treats me like a queen. You're just some loser who can't keep his wife happy." That was the moment I realized she was in denial, completely disconnected from reality. She thought she could spin her way out of this, that her lies would somehow save her. But I knew better. I saw her for what she truly was, a manipulative, selfish woman who destroyed everything we had. The judge listened carefully, asking questions, reviewing the evidence. It became clear that I had a strong case. The judge asked her directly about the money, the affair, and her claims about the house being a gift. Her answers were weak, full of contradictions. I could see the doubt in her eyes. When the judge finally made the ruling, it was like a huge weight lifted from my shoulders. I was awarded the house, the remaining funds in our joint account, and a partial settlement of the stolen money. Not everything I wanted, but enough to start rebuilding. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt exhausted but victorious. It wasn't just about the money or the house anymore. It was about justice, about standing up for myself after everything she'd done. I knew she'd be furious, and I expected her to try to fight back in other ways. But I was prepared. I'd secured my future, and I had the proof to back it up. In the aftermath of the court case, I started the process of healing. I moved out of the house, found a new place to live, and cut all contact with her. The betrayal ran so deep that I couldn't even look at her without feeling anger. But I also felt a strange sense of relief. Finally, I was free from her manipulation and lies. I realized how much I'd been blinded, how I'd trusted her blindly for so long. Now I saw clearly. I saw her for what she was, a thief, a liar, and someone who never truly cared about me. Looking back, I learned a lot from this ordeal. Trust is fragile, and sometimes people will betray you in ways you never imagined. But I also learned that standing up for yourself, fighting for what's right, and not letting the lies win, those are the things that matter. I may have lost some years of my life to her deception, but I gained clarity, strength, and a new beginning. And I'll never let anyone take that away from me again. After everything settled, I finally felt like I was beginning to breathe again. The house was mine, the money was secured, and the nightmare of her lies was slowly fading into the past. But the scars remained. Trust, once shattered, doesn't just heal overnight. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, second-guessing every word she said, every new person I met. The betrayal had cut so deep that I knew it would take time to rebuild my sense of security. The hardest part was the emotional toll. I'd loved her, believed in us, and invested so much of myself into our life together. To find out she'd been lying, cheating, stealing, everything, felt like a punch to the gut every single day. I questioned everything I thought I knew about her, about myself, about what love really meant. I'd go through waves of anger, sadness, and even guilt, wondering if I missed the signs or if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I understood that some people choose to betray you, regardless of what you do. Since the divorce, I've been focusing on rebuilding my life. I started going to therapy, trying to process what happened and make sense of it all. I've also been working on my career, pouring my energy into projects that make me feel alive again. Slowly, I've started trusting again, just in a much more cautious way. I've learned that not everyone is who they seem, and that's okay. Protecting myself doesn't mean living in fear. It means being smarter about who I let into my world. Looking back, I realize I was naive to think that love alone could shield me from betrayal. Trust is earned, and I should have guarded my heart more carefully. But I also know that I'm stronger now because of it. This experience taught me resilience, patience, and the importance of standing up for myself. I learned that sometimes the only way to truly move on is to confront the pain head-on, face the truth, and refuse to let it define me. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I want to say, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small or how much you want to believe the best in someone. When you catch the betrayal, don't hesitate to stand your ground. Fight for what's yours, your dignity, your peace, your future. It hurts, yes, but in the end you come out stronger. You learn who you really are and what you're capable of surviving. I'll never forget what happened, but I refuse to let it control me. I've learned that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance to find your strength. And that's what I choose to do now. Move forward, wiser and more cautious, but also more hopeful. Because life goes on. And I owe it to myself to make sure I never let anyone betray me like that again.